What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fudge Muppet. It's Scott here with another Worth It video all about Skyrim, the destruction skill tree in particular. Today we're talking about, is destruction worth it? The perks in particular. Well, to get into this video, we sort of have to start with an analysis of destruction as a whole. Obviously, it's cool as fuck, and shooting fireballs and lightning and all that kind of stuff from your hands is awesome, and it's effective for a very good part of the game. However, there is the unfortunate truth that destruction is not very viable in the late game, or at least it could be viable, but it's just not as powerful, and it really does rely on destruction reduction enchantments. But first, let's go through the skill tree. So I would say Novice, Apprentice, and Adept are worthwhile investments to get the perks, because for the game that you're actually using those level spells, you'll be able to kill the enemies quite efficiently with the destruction spells. But once you get to the expert level spells, even with the destruction perk, they are very, very costly for not a lot of damage, especially when compared to things like archery and swords and two-handed that you could have as a warrior. So, well, really, it has to rely heavily on destruction reduction from enchantments. And what I would say is, don't bother getting the expert perk. Just wait till you've got 100 enchanting and enchant yourself a set of armor or jewelry or whatever that reduces the destruction cost. Then you can start using the expert spells more effectively and actually be able to use them without using 3 shots and you're out of magicka. And also, that magicka is just better off used on other things, like maybe illusion spells or conjuration spells, or even perhaps alteration and restoration. There's just a lot of other purposes for the magicka rather than just damage dealing, because theoretically, if you invested in archery or swords, you could just do that same sort of damage dealing, but without the cost of magicka. Anyway, let's actually look at the other perks here. So the main best ones that we've got is Destruction, Dual Casting, and Impact. And Impact is sort of the reason why Destruction Dual Casting is worthwhile, but to be able to basically always stagger an opponent with a dual casted spell is really, really good. Now, it doesn't yield the biggest benefit early on when you can't cast lots and lots and lots of spells, but if you are going real power gaming sort of late level and you still want to use Destruction, the best way, if you've essentially got Destruction spells costing nothing because of your enchantments, and you could just spam that Thunderbolt or Icy Spear and stuff, and then constantly stagger your opponents, that's a way to get good advantage. You can compete with the swords and archery, mainly because of the staggering. But like I say, you do sort of really need to power game it and get that destruction reduction through enchantments, and some people might not like doing that, so that one's really up to you. I mean, the gist of this video is essentially going to be that destruction isn't fantastic in the late game when you're sort of looking at level 40, 50 upwards, basically upwards of 50, I'd say. It starts to become less efficient, and even at the beginning, you can just deal more damage by using weapons and so on. Like me personally, I like to play, a combination. I usually use illusion or conjuration or alteration or restoration, like the other magic skills. I don't use magic as my main damage dealer, just because it is inefficient. It's basically the only way you can cause damage is by using your magicka, which is a vital source. As for the elemental specializations, they're all pretty worth it. Both fire, lightning, and frost are all pretty damn good. What I would say though is, while Icy Spear is cool and all the frost magic is cool, you are putting yourself at a slight disadvantage, mainly because there are lots of enemies in Skyrim with a frost resistance. So, Draga, basically every single dungeon you ever go into, you're going to have to deal with enemies that have a 50% resistance. I think it's a 50% resistance, but it's resistance to frost, and the same goes with frost trolls and snow bears and, a few harder enemies. But look, it's still cool and worthwhile going into. But, yeah, there's not a lot of ways to increase the destruction damage of your spells besides really wearing the masks, the Dragon Priest masks from the Dragonborn DLC, and using these perks. So if you're going to go to a destruction combat character, you're really going to have to invest in at least one of these elemental perks to get the best benefit. Like if you go Pyromancer or whatever you're going to do. Yeah, you get the gist. Basically, destruction is limited. You can't smith it up, you can't enchant it, and it costs magicka at that. So my professional opinion of destruction as a whole is it's not viable in the long run unless you're using enchantments. Don't bother with master, don't bother with expert perks, because you could just get up to adept, and then by the time you've got sort of that far in the game, you could get your enchanting up and then enchant yourself a set where you can get the cost down enough that there's no point wasting a perk. But yeah, that's pretty much my opinion on the Destruction School. Subscribe for more worth it videos just like this. I'm Scott from Fudge Muppet, and I'll see you next time.